Logan Pass was one of the most scenic destinations in Glacier National Park, with fields of wildflowers and soaring mountains. But the National Park Service has faced a huge problem in the last 20 years. The glaciers that were once beautiful and could be found all over the park have now vanished from the mountainsides. Not only does this hurt tourism in the park, but the effects of the decreased water supply to the lakes and streams are causing rare animals only found in this area to become threatened. I visited Glacier National Park with my family when I was 5 years old. Even though I was so young, the park made an impression on me that I have never forgotten. This video was shot during our visit in June of 2005. Human-induced global climate change is causing drastic changes to the ecology of Glacier National Park and accelerating the melting of the glaciers. Given the history, the natural wonder, and environmental importance of this park, it is important for us to preserve it for future generations. Glacier National Park is located in the state of Montana and borders Canada. There's archaeological evidence from radiocarbon dating and materials found in sedimentary rock strata. The first inhabitants lived in this area more than 10,000 years ago. For centuries, the Blackfeet, Salish, and Kootenai Indian tribes lived on the land. Then, in 1896, a treaty with the United States forced the Blackfeet to cede land back to the government. The United States declared the area as Glacier National Park on May 11, 1910.
Park superintendent was a guy by the name of William Logan. He was an Army major. The pass is named after Logan.
Most of the natives who lived on the land moved to reservations surrounding the park. The natives enjoyed the beauty of the glaciers, but their new reservations had no scenic value and they were cramped compared to their old land. In the early 1890s, before Glacier was named a national park, the rugged landscape of Glacier attracted the attention of the Great Northern Railway. The railroad was seeking a route to the west coast when the president of the company saw Glacier's beauty and potential for tourism. Some of the ecological features that make Glacier National Park unique from other parks are its snow-covered glaciers, glacier-scoured mountains, pristine turquoise lakes and streams, dense ancient forests, and abundant plants and animals, many of which are only found in this area.
Now, on a day like this, you might be looking down into the water and notice a bit of an aqua green tint to it. Well, that is just one way we can tell active glaciers are feeding Lake McDonald. Glaciers form a sediment mineral known as glacier flour, and it's kind of like a powder-like form that gets into the water here, and once the sun hits it, it reflects an aqua green color.
The glaciers in Glacier National Park are disappearing. 170 years ago, there were approximately 150 glaciers throughout the park. When the park was established in 1910, about the same number of glaciers existed. Edward Warren, an American author, visited the park on June 27, 1913. He wrote,
"Iceberg Lake is so called because there is a small glacier coming down to the water's edge at one side, from which, during the summer, pieces of ice are frequently breaking off and floating about in the water. At the time of my visit, however, the lake was mostly covered with ice and snow."
At the time of his visit, it was most likely quite warm because it was the end of June. For most of the lake to be still covered with ice at this time of year is astonishing because today, the ice melts completely between March and April, not at the end of June like this primary source states. Today, 105 years after the park opened, only 25 glaciers remain. Scientists predict the Glacier National Park glaciers will be gone by 2030. Some computer models suggest the glaciers will not completely disappear for several more decades, but many of the glaciers are melting faster than the rates predicted earlier. Scientists are certain global climate change is the reason for the recession of these glaciers. Summer mean temperatures in Glacier National Park are variable from year to year, but have had an upward trend over the time this has been measured since 1850. During the same period, nearly all glaciers in the park have had a steady decline. As the glaciers disappear, their loss is predicted to cause many changes to the ecosystem of Glacier National Park. Glaciers provide a steady source of water throughout the summers and at a consistent temperature. Snowfall will continue to provide water, but the rapid melting in the spring does not provide continuing water flow through the later summer months. This is expected to cause changes to wildlife, insects, fish, and plant life. The loss of glaciers in the higher elevations will allow tree lines and grasslands to move higher. They may replace the high-altitude ecosystem, and the native alpine plants will have difficulty surviving. This change would affect the alpine wildlife such as mountain goats, wolverines, lynx, and pika, who may not be able to survive in a different environment. Various insect species are at risk as well. Stoneflies thrive in cold, oxygenated water downstream from glaciers. As the glaciers retreat, this insect is expected to become extinct. A decision on protecting the stonefly is due September 30th, 2016, but it seems unlikely the Fish and Wildlife Service will provide endangered status because protection is, quote, warranted but precluded. Gary Tabor, an American environmentalist and founder of the Center for Large Landscape Conservation, explained in 2013.
Glacier National Park, a park named for its unique asset, is going to lose all of its glaciers in the next 50 years. The glaciers are the storage buffer for water, and the water that comes from those glaciers keeps the western landscape alive. It will have a cascading impact because so many species and habitats have adapted to having water at a certain time of year and in a certain quantity. And now that's all gone. So many species, including us humans, will be left high and dry.
Tabor brought this to the public's attention by writing this news article because it is a big problem that needs to be addressed. This reduction in flowing water has contributed to many droughts in the park and an increase in fires. Forest fires have a major impact on the ecosystem, both good and bad, and an increase in natural wildfires could be disruptive. Water stresses also affect forest health and can make trees and other plants more susceptible to invasive insects. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change reported rising temperatures are a significant cause of increased outbreaks of insects in forests. In conclusion, human-induced global climate change is accelerating the melting of Glacier National Park's remaining glaciers, causing the park's overall beauty to become diminished. More importantly, this also is leading to fewer resources for the animal and plant life in the park and is endangering the park's whole environment. In order to stop this change, our society as a whole must try to decrease carbon emissions, which are the biggest culprits of the glaciers melting. If everyone knew the effect burning fossil fuels has on the Earth, and the changes these actions are causing in Glacier National Park, we may be able to stop the changes and save what is left of the glaciers.
Captain here, driving the boat. We have Captain Steven.
How old are you? 5?
He's about 5 years old and he's doing a wonderful job driving the boat. Although you really can't see where we're going.